Well, a warm welcome back to the History Show here on Uxbridge FM. And as usual, Ken Pearce joins us. Now, this is a talk on the birds of Uxbridge, and I'm reliably informed these are the feathered variety. Is that right, Ken?
Yes, that's right. I'm no expert on the other sort, I'm afraid.
All right, when you're ready.
Thank you. Well, it occurred to me recently that local history is mostly about people and places, I suppose, but what about the natural world? That too has a history. And I came across an article written 50 years ago by a member of my history society when she compiled a piece called and on I can say this, an ornithologist's point of view. So this is what she had to say. I sometimes feel a traitor in the camp of the Uxbridge historians, for whenever I hear of another old building to be destroyed, my first thought is not for the architecture, but for the bird life, which invariably suffers too. Most of the Uxbridge country estates have been replaced by housing projects, and sparrows and starlings chatter and squabble where once there were woodpeckers and warblers. The farmlands and grounds of Hillingdon afforded shelter and food for numerous interesting birds. The three varieties of woodpeckers could be heard drumming and calling from a house called the Chestnuts in Honeycroft Hill. And I frequently watched the green woodpecker picking up ants from our lawn with its long, sticky tongue before returning to its sanctuary across the road. In spite of the fact that the RAF occupied the grounds, the trees even were left in abundance, and hawfinches occupied those grounds. Even firecrests were seen sheltering in the huge conifers one icy winter. The old farm buildings were ideally suited to the needs of the ghostly barn owl, who kept down the rat and mouse population, and reed buntings spent undisturbed years in reeds bordering the numerous small ponds in the area. Some birds, like the yellowhammer and red-backed shrike, have disappeared since the furze bushes bordering the Common and Western Avenue were cut down. Those shrikes need thorns on which to impale the insects they collect for food. It doesn't seem many years ago that I tracked nightingales in the same vicinity. It is now 5 years since I received a midnight telephone call telling me to come and listen to the nightingale singing on the railway bank near Honeycroft Hill, still with sufficient foliage to attract this wanderer for a day or two. In recent years, these exciting birds have been driven further afield. The RAF decided to tidy up their grounds, and many old trees have been felled to make way for houses and the buildings of Uxbridge Technical College nearby, too. A large open space has been destroyed, which once harboured skylarks, partridges, moorhens, and grasshopper warblers. Migrant birds no longer see inviting ground cover from the air and pass over us to more promising districts. Although a waxwing did take refuge in a preserved tree on the old Belmont estate in 1971. And some years back, a pied flycatcher rested here for a week before resuming its journey to North Africa. Harefield House was threatened, and with it may go a tangle of undergrowth, and many beautiful trees which at present provide refuge for warblers, tree creepers, woodpeckers, and nuthatches. The proposed estate by the River Fraze will undoubtedly threaten the little flock of siskins who come every winter to feed on the alder trees. These housing estates inevitably lead to road widening and the subsequent loss of hedgerows, forcing birds like greenfinches, goldfinches, and linnets to look elsewhere for nest sites. The tiny little whitethroats need nettle beds for their nests, and the demand for sterile verges destroys many a likely patch. It may be that I have been too pessimistic over our borough's ornithological position, as many of the birds I have mentioned can still be found locally, although in reduced numbers. And I think we have been fortunate in that several of the old estates, such as Hillingdon House, Hillingdon Court, and Swegleys, have not been fully developed. But to every piece of bird cover, I think is worth fighting for. So I, a bird lover, will join with the history lovers to press for preservation orders. Now, that was Christine Fricker writing 50 years ago. And I'm sure since then, more changes have taken place. Those of you who know more about these natural things than me will realize, I'm sure, that some of the species mentioned there have now completely disappeared. Christine didn't mention the cuckoo, but one could always hear the cuckoo every year when I was young. But I haven't heard a cuckoo in this area for years. On the other hand, there have been new arrivals. The kites, red kites, have spread from Buckinghamshire recently over our area. And then, of course, there are the little parrots. I'm trying to desperately to think of the proper word for them. Can you help, Steve?
Hmm.
No, never mind. People will know what I mean. Parakeets, that's it. Yes. They have appeared as well. It is said, I don't know how true it is, that they were originally in captivity and escaped and have flourished in the wild. So things in nature locally are always changing. Just a final piece. You may be interested to know that suddenly, at the beginning of last year, a badger appeared in our garden. Never seen a badger for years. Now we've got two, or possibly three, I'm not sure. But since my garden adjoins the Brunel campus site, I'm sure that's where they have found a home. And so indeed, we move on and nature changes.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Change is as good as a rest sometimes.